Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of Fire and Air.
Hello, hello.
You're with your host Khush and Uma.
Hello.
Hello, and today we have a very special guest with us. It is my cousin Meesha. Say hello, Meesha.
Hello, everyone.
She's from America, if you can't tell from her accent.
Welcome, Meesha.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Just a little bit on who Meesha is, how I know her, just her her relevance to this episode.
Oh, geez.
So our mums used to be best friends. Yeah, our mums used to be best friends, and they went to university together. So and they just stayed in touch. They stayed really, really close. And even though Meesha lived in America and I live in England, we used to have reunions like once a year, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely more frequent when we were younger, huh?
She's not my real cousin. She's my fake cousin. All the ethnics listening to this will understand fake cousin. Yeah, so we've just kind of like not grown up together, but I've known her my whole life. But then we had a few years of no contact at all. Like, how many years was that?
Wow. I feel like I went from seeing you like as a preteen, and then all of a sudden you were like this beautiful grown woman. And I was like, what?
I was so confused.
When did this happen?
Yeah, we reunited in 2018, and it was just like no time had ever passed, and we've just had a really beautiful bond ever since. It's just been really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the sister I never had.
It's true.
So true. Okay, yeah, so we have a few questions for Meesha. She's a very interesting person, and she has a very specific goal in life, and she's always acting on achieving this goal, and we just wanted to ask her a few questions and let you guys hear her answers because it's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
So Uma, do you want to start with question 1?
Yeah, of course. Okay, I want to know a little bit about yourself, just in generally, your background, where you were growing up, any crazy stories that you think defined you even, that would be quite cool, and just your journey into everything that you're so passionate about. And from just looking at your Instagram, I'm like, yeah, okay, this is going to be interesting. So yeah.
I think the most formative and most long-lasting part of my life is my spirituality. I grew up in a Hindu household. And so we always did puja. We always talked about the different Hindu deities. And my father in particular is a really spiritual person. And I remember being really young and feeling communion with God. And there's 2 instances that I remember. I remember once in the bathtub, I was just honestly talking to God. Like I just like
Really?
would be like, hey, what's up? Yeah, and I was just talking to him, and I remember getting a download, and it was basically like, never forget, that you were made in perfection. You were made in the image of God, and you're beautiful. Yeah.
How old were you?
Yeah.
I was like 4. And
And you, the fact that you was aware and recognized
And
it.
you remember that to this day.
Yeah, that just shows the impact that it had. It's a flashback moment.
Thank you. The other one that was really intense is I was like 5 or 6, and I went to go swimming, and I saw the older girl that I was with. She was swimming with no floaties on, and I was like, you know what? That looks easy enough. I'm gonna get in this pool and I'm gonna swim. But it did not work. I sank to the bottom like a rock. And yeah, so like I was like, I was drowning, and I didn't really struggle. I just remember really coming to terms with it and being like, God. You know what? Yeah, I like faced my mortality. I was 5. And again, I prayed to God. I was just like, tell everyone that I love them, and It's
That's
cool.
insane. That's crazy that,
crazy.
how we always say, Mish, that we have like quite parallel events happening to us, that we have quite parallel lives. That's insane because in 2017, I was scuba diving and I had a scuba diving accident and I thought I was essentially drowning. And I literally remember in that moment that I accepted I'm going to die. And I just felt at peace with I wasn't panicking. I just felt at peace. I literally just thought, this is it. Like, I'm going to die. And I felt okay.
That's
so I really
crazy.
relate to that. Like, I really understand what you mean.
When I was younger, see, I'm the complete opposite. I was stressing.
What did you do? Bird life?
So when I was younger, I used to go to swimming lessons, and there's this girl who like was swimming next to me, and she started drowning, and she started like holding me to like get up as well, like as a savior kind of thing. And I couldn't help her, so then I started drowning with her, and the only way we obviously could have stopped drowning is if I pushed her off me so we can both rise. And she just like wasn't letting go. We were so young, she just like was that scared and panicky, so I just like had to literally push her off me, like push, and then I had to rise. I had no time to think about it.
Oh my god!
I had to just like push her off me.
Was she okay?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Did she survive?
We were both fine.
Uma survived, but unfortunately, she was the only survivor.
No, she was fine. Thank God. But I was just like, oh my god, man, get off me! Get off me! I'm going to die because you're not getting off me.
Well, that's not your fault, like you're like, wait, I'm not ready to go. This isn't my bag.
High time. This is not my problem.
There's me and Khush Boo. That was all us,
Yeah, that's true. You two were alone.
Oh my god! And you know what the thing is, like with both of our stories, like it's completely our fault. Like you tried to swim, but with my situation, I let go of the rope because I like misread the command, and everyone else went to the surface, and I just let go of I let go of the rope, thinking, oh, this is what I meant to do. This is what he meant. And I start drowning, don't I? Uh-oh, indeed. But yeah, do continue.
Yeah, do continue.
So I've just always felt really spiritually connected. Some may think I'm crazy, but it's really helped me get through life. And later on in life, I had a period where I was really angry and nihilistic, and I was like, there is no God. Why would my life suck this much if there was a God?
Yeah.
And, what accompanied that was realizing that the world is really messed up. Like, the government, in America is edging on fascism at any given moment. And we prioritize war over the good of people. And, capitalism is creating these terrible injustices. So I came back around eventually to, find my spiritual connection. And I found yoga, which is, of India. It's of my heritage. And so I got into yoga, and I've been obsessed ever since.
Oh, wow.
So you found that yoga has personally helped you with reconnecting with your spiritual side when you went through that kind of phase. It was kind of like motivating you back into it.
For sure. And it marries the whole thing, because yoga has been appropriated and it's been taken by these systems that I'm so angry with. And so, it allows me to dig into my heritage, and it also gives me purpose in how to dismantle these systems that are oppressing people.
Okay, so
really
that actually really leads perfectly into our next question. So can you tell us a little bit more about your Insta platform, your business, what your mission is, how that's related to decolonization and all of that stuff?
So this summer I got really inspired because Black Lives Matter really had an uprising in America and then in the whole world. And it's all about, police brutality and racism against Black people, but it also kind of uplifts anyone who's a person of color and makes them reevaluate, like, how do I stand in this world and how am I treated because of being a person of color? And I just really felt into it. And I was like, every time I've gone to find yoga, I find myself in exclusively white spaces.
That's so true.
Yeah,
that's never questioned either. No, that's never been questioned.
Not.
And it's so normalized for us. Like, we'll go to a yoga class, it'll be led by a white woman, and we just won't even
everyone around
we'll just associate yoga with skinny white girls.
Yeah.
That is just the association we all have.
Definitely. It's been programmed into us at this point.
Yes. And yeah, which is just kind of a microcosm of society as a whole. This thin white woman has this teaching seat, this seat of authority, and then other people are expected to look up to her as the like prototype of, you know, success or spirituality or whatever it is, her body, because ultimately what it's been turned to is a fitness program. You know, it comes from India as part of, even it's pre-Vedic. It's a really old spiritual art form, and now it's like, whose ass looks best in these $100 leggings?
That's literally what it is. You're so right.
I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to be the voice of reason, of reclaiming yoga. But the cool thing is I went into it and I found that there are people already doing this. There's big communities. And one person who I found, and I was like so excited when she sent me a voice message, is her name is Susanna Barakati, and she has like 20 years in this field of decolonizing yoga, uplifting Black voices, and she just released a book. And I've taken, so like I found this community finally of people who are like, that's not right what you're doing over there.
Can you define decolonization just for people who are listening in case they're a little bit confused about
what you mean by that?
What you mean by that? What is it? What does it look like for you?
Sure. So the whole world has been colonized, and I come from two places that have been. So India was colonized by Britishers. That's when people from another place, predominantly white people, come in, take resources, implement their own systems, and start stripping the indigenous people of their rights and of their practices. And then in America, you know, it's people from Britain who got sick of the way their government was treating them, and they came in and took from the indigenous people here. So that's what colonization is. And colonization has this effect of creating classes of people, and there's a big oppressed minority at the bottom. This comes, you know, into play if you're a person of color, if you're queer, if you're an indigenous person, and if you're a woman. And so decolonizing is unlearning what society teaches you, what your worth is, what reality should look like, you know, what these systems at play are, and relearning your ancient medicine. So basically
just like relearning what was actually ours to begin with, what was taken away from us, what was stolen from us, and just basically
what was demonized.
And reconnecting with what was actually once ours.
Absolutely.
Proud of.
Exactly. And that feeds into a lot of cultural appropriation that you see in the media today constantly. You know, there's been decades and decades where this is obviously focusing on the Black community, but there's been decades and decades of where big lips and braids and all these staples in African Caribbean tradition that has just been demonized by predominantly white people. And only in the last however many years where the Kardashians and, you know, media making it look cool, that now it's the in thing and it's the suit, like it's the ideal.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. Like it's been demonized, but it's been demonized for the people who, like, where it comes from, like the people who created it, but then the people who demonize it will then use it to their own advantage, and that's what cultural appropriation is.
Exactly. So when we're relating that back to you and your journey, so are you saying that yoga is your way of kind of your niche way of trying to solve that wider issue that has happened over generations?
Yeah, definitely. I think Indian culture is one of the most appropriated and least talked about in the world, because I found myself, like, you'll find Ganesha like on a thong, I feel like.
It actually makes me feel sick when I see stuff like that. Have you seen Iggy Azalea's album cover from like years ago now?
No, I haven't.
Basically, it was her as Lakshmi, and she's coming out of the lotus, and she's literally got so many arms, like,
for real.
Yeah, and it's her face and it's her body structure, and I just thought, like, what the fuck? Like, that is so messed up. Why you think you could embody yourself as like one of our goddesses now? Like, who told you that was okay?
And that looks hip, that looks edgy, that's gonna get her sales, whereas for the same culture, we get discriminated against.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Actually, Cardi B just did it, and she got a lot of trouble, which
Yeah.
makes me sad. I love Cardi B, but she emulated Durga, for
Yeah.
her sneaker line. But
She did.
Actually, a bit of a side question. So, Mish, have you ever? So now that you've really gotten like passionate about decolonizing cultural appropriation, have you looked into yourself and thought about times you have actually appropriated a culture yourself?
oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, I think Black culture is in America just the quintessential, like, we're going to sell this to you and it's cool, but then actual people who are from this culture are treated like second class citizens, are killed in, Black men are killed 12 times more likely than a white man.
Yeah.
But then, the way that a Black woman speaks or the way a Black man dresses is what they'll sell to you.
Yeah, and that exists here as well. Like, I think the rates are a lot higher in America, yes.
And then I don't know what this is like in the UK, but you can tell me. But, America is where Native Americans obviously are from. And that is another massively appropriated culture. And there's so many tribes. So to call them one monolith is the same as when you say, oh, like all Asians. And it's like, no, there's so many different countries and cultures in Asia. But, Native Americans have been turned into this monolith. And in this new age, like white spiritual community, they sell dream catchers. They talk about who's your spirit animal. Like white sage is going extinct here because it's being sold. And so I've definitely participated in that before I woke up and realized what I need to be doing is uplifting Indigenous voices. And I need to be giving money and resources to the tribes that live here still, not, buy it from some white lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually I was thinking as well. So in order for cultural appropriation, in order for colonization to actually, slow down, stop, in the people that are doing this, they need to first of all have some kind of acceptance that they are doing it. And I think that's the hardest part, because it's like, even people like us, like people that are so passionate about this kind of stuff, like we can all look into our past and be like, oh, I was definitely ignorantly racist at one point in my life. I appropriated at one point in my life. I've definitely ignored colonization, and it takes that acceptance in order for change to happen. But I think that acceptance is the hardest part, because nobody wants to look into themselves and be like, oh shit, like, what I did that time, that was cultural appropriation. Or like, oh shit, like that mindset I had, that was racist actually, and I didn't realize it. Just that I think we need to encourage that it's okay that we've all been a perpetrator of this, and that's okay. We can just need to accept it.
And I think that feeds into the big kind of, I don't know, it's really new and really like up and coming, and hopefully more people latch onto it. But it's the perspective that color blindness doesn't help anyone. Just saying you're not racist doesn't help anyone. But, really looking into your behaviors, really looking into the small things that you do to make sure you are being anti-racist. That's what is important.
And that's gotten really big recently. And that's something that actually, that changed my whole perception, because obviously when the Black Lives Matter movement blew up after the really unfortunate incident with George Floyd, it was all over social media about, it's not enough to just not be racist, you need to be anti-racist, and you can't be anti-racist until you accept that you are ignorantly racist. And 99% of people have that side, had that side of them in the past.
And it's important to remember that as well. Like, even it's our responsibility to make sure we don't continue to do these things and educate ourselves. But making the first mistakes when we're younger and, not knowing as much, it's not okay. But also it's been programmed into us through institutions, through even the way family is set up. All these small things have fed into these ideologies. It's remembering that it wasn't exactly our fault that, things might have happened, but it is our fault if we continue to let it happen.
Exactly.
And not take responsibility for
it's
it.
our fault to remain ignorant to these things. We're at a stage in this world where we have all the sources available to us. We need to educate ourselves, and we need to be the change.
Yes. Hell yeah.
With yoga, would you say the same meaning is interchangeable with meditation too for you?
Meditation is the soul of yoga.
Okay.
Like that's a great way to decolonize it, is to start there. It's not a fitness program. It's a way to master the senses, to still the mind, and to have a spiritual experience. So they're one and the same in that way. Yeah, it's a communion with yourself. And I talked to an Indigenous person recently who was like, anything can be a meditation. You're right, if you go into it with that intention. Like, besides yoga, I really like skateboarding because it's that like individual kind of like moment with yourself.
For sure. Okay, so Meesha, now that we've talked about yoga and meditation, can you do a bit of shameless self-promotion? Tell us a bit about your business, what it's about.
Gas yourself up to the max right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for giving me that space. So I've created an inclusive virtual studio called Alchemistic Studio. And I have a class schedule, so I have opportunities for folks to come and practice in their capacity. So we have meditation classes that you can do seated or laying down, all the way up to like very dynamic classes like Awaken Flow, which is kind of like a more vinyasa-based, faster-paced flow. And then I'm also working on deeper immersions that I'm going to release soon, which I'm super excited about.
Ooh.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about that? What does that mean? Deeper immersion?
Okay. Well, y'all are the first people to hear this.
Oh, really? Oh my God, that's so exciting. Tell us.
There's several chakra systems, like all over the body, but there's the 7 main ones that everyone knows in the West. And there's been like 1,000,002,000 chakra workshops in the world. But what I want to do is marry my 2 visions always. And so I want to do a chakra workshop about how energetic centers in our body have been affected by being marginalized people in society.
Oh, wow.
So, so if the root chakras, if it's usually blocked by feeling unsafe in family dynamics or group dynamics, well, then you're way more likely to have blockages in those centers as a queer person or as a person of color, because the whole society is set up for you to feel unsafe in any given moment. And so I want to just dive into each energy center, how your identity relates to society, and then just give tips on how to unblock those spaces.
That sounds amazing.
It's really beautiful.
It's all Zoom right now. It's all virtual. And I'm super open to scheduling around people's needs. And so I'm in California currently, but I've done classes like earlier or later based on where folks are at. So my website is www.alchemistic, ALCHEMYSTIC studio.com. And then shoot me an email and let's work it out. Let's practice together.
Definitely.
Oh, that is amazing.
Oh my God. I'm gassed. Whoever's gonna do it, I'm gassed. I might even do it. I'm not gonna
Yay!
And so, you mentioned you're also really passionate about queer empowerment, and I just wanted to ask you, like, can you talk us through your journey with your own sexual orientation? Because I've known you my whole life, and I didn't even know. I thought you were straight until you suddenly had a girlfriend. A girlfriend now. So I didn't really know much about your journey on sexual orientation, your passion for queer empowerment. So just tell us a bit about that.
I came out late in life. I was 27, but I'm lucky in that I wasn't, 60 or 70. Some people don't feel comfortable. You're gay or bi or pan or straight your whole life, right? Like I've experienced my sexuality the way I have my whole life. And I should have been tipped off when I would have like best friends that were girls, and like I'd be like buying them rose gold bracelets and like telling them I love them. I would say I'm pansexual, and I have been my whole life.
Can you explain that? Sorry.
Sure. Pansexuality is people who are attracted to others not based on their gender, but rather based on their inherent connection to them, whether it be an emotional connection or a spiritual connection. And
actually, on that, sorry to interrupt. But, I've recently so I'm reading A New Earth right now. Have you read it, Mish?
I have not.
Oh, I need to read it. And yeah, and like I was thinking actually that people that are pansexual have to be inherently spiritual as well, because to be able to only be attracted to someone's energy, you need to be able to look at someone as a formless being, like
you
not
need to be able to have that kind of side of spirituality explanations.
Exactly. Like you can't, like you're looking at someone not in their form, not identified to their gender, you're just looking at them as purely as soul, purely as energy. So I think only like there has to be a strong correlation between homosexuality, pansexuality, and spirituality.
I feel that. I think everyone's born with psychic gifts, and my biggest one is clairsentience. I feel people. And so like I've described this a lot, where if I like someone, it's because of how I felt them and how they made me feel. Sometimes I don't even know what they look like for the first couple meetings, like genuinely. And then I'll look at them and I'll be like, oh, you're hot. That's cool. Like,
bonus.
That's the same thing with me. Like, that's why, like, all my friends are always like, why do you date guys that are just like not as peng as you?
Peng means attractive, Meesha.
Peng means attractive.
Yeah.
And I'm just,
I know that one.
Oh really? Did I teach you that?
No, yeah, definitely you.
And I'm just like, well, why? Like, I don't know. I just find them attractive as I go along because their energies, I'm just like so engulfed by whatever they're like radiating.
Yeah. I think everyone has the capability of being pansexual. Do you think it's like within all of us? We just have to get to the point where we dissociate with everyone's identification.
I think sexuality is on a spectrum, and I think it's not fair to say, you know, everyone is one thing. I think I have a really hard time believing in someone who's 100% straight. Personally, like, I can't believe everyone's 100% straight, but like, that's because I'm so pan. Maybe like, I can be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I guess they're out there. Like, I guess there's people out there that just don't want to have sex with the opposite sex.
You think that can be ignorance? Like,
no, I think that could just be a thing.
Yeah.
I think it's only ignorance when it's like, I would never have sex with the same sex because I think it's like disgusting, and I think like this is wrong, and you know, my religion teaches me this. Like that's when it's ignorance. It's like, come on, like look beyond the rules that society have taught you.
I know what you mean though. Like sometimes I hear about polyamorous people and I'm like super monogamous, and I'm like, are they more evolved than me? Like, are they beyond jealousy?
I guess they're more primitive, if anything. They're not more evolved, they're more primitive. Because I just don't think humans are meant to be monogamous.
Interesting.
We're not meant to be monogamous. That's a societal concept that's created, but you might think differently because you just said you're so monogamous. So
exactly. So that's why I'm saying everything's on a spectrum, and it's like just different strokes for different folks. Honestly,
different strokes for different folks. Amen, sister.
But so on your journey, so you came out when you were 27.
Yeah. So it was the summer of a big breakup, and I was really liberating myself, and I was like really diving into who I am and genuinely trying to form identity outside of relationships, because I'm a Libra, so we be codependent sometimes. And
don't spill all our secrets. But
I was like, you know what? I'm ready to do this. And I made a YouTube video where I was like what I called it was coming out to myself. Cause that's the first step, is you admit it to yourself, and you become really comfortable with that. And then you tell people, and then you tell people forever, basically. All my friends and family watched it, and then I was like, okay, cool. And I changed my dating apps to like girls and boys, and then went on my merry way. And now I have a beautiful partner who's non-binary. So I didn't even know it would go, you know, down that road, where I started as bisexual, but I really identify now as pansexual because, you know, my partner's non-binary. So
can you explain non-binary to our audience as well?
Someone who doesn't subscribe to the binary, they don't identify as a woman or a man. They're kind of someone who transcends that experience.
So there's phases of her life where she feels like she's emitting more masculine energy, and then sometimes she feels like she's emitting more feminine energy. Like she just switches between the two and doesn't really find identification with either.
Yeah. And honestly, I resonate with that as well, but I'm very like feminine presenting. So so that's a whole nother journey to go down.
So would you say that you were in denial about your sexuality until the age of 27?
Yeah, I think so. I know I had I'd kissed women or hooked up with them to some extent, but I would say I was in denial because I was scared. Like, it's not that I was like, oh, ew, that's weird. It's like, it was just terrifying. I mean, I'm Indian, and sure, my parents aren't like the strictest, but it still is like, will my parents hate me? And like, what does that mean for me? My parents were cool about it. I remember when my dad watched the video, he was like, don't put that out there. And I was like,
too late.
Well, yeah, I did. And you got to accept it. And I introduced him to Maria, and he was cool about it. So.
Aww.
Yeah, so that really surprises me, Meesha, because I've always seen you, like, my whole life. I've looked up to you as such an open person, like someone who just wears their heart on their sleeve. And to be such an open person on the surface level, but still be in denial about such a big part of yourself for 27 years, like, that really surprises me.
I think that is your interaction between Libra and Leo, though.
You think so? Explain that.
Yeah, because I think Libra energy is presenting as somebody that's really confident and empowered and like a boss. Like, Libra energy is very boss energy. And Leo, I think, can also be quite stubborn and can also be quite just like guarded. Like, if they want to guard something for whatever reason, they will do it because they have that kind of power in them. I just think it's that interaction. Like, you've come across as all of that, but like, you've actually guarded this all from yourself, or like just generally for them however many years.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, Meesha?
Yeah, I could see that. And I think it's funny because the choices I made for male partners, it was like, it's so obvious. It was never like, I think I had one boyfriend who would identify and I would think is like straight. My first partner, he's so like fluid. Like, even back then he was a much more feminine boy, and like, we were both so like bisexual, pansexual people. And I had another partner who was openly bisexual at the time. And so like, I think I was surrounding myself in boys that were more comfortable saying it, and that was my way of like dipping my toe in without having to like dive in and really do it myself yet.
That's really interesting.
So what would you say really held you back? Would you say it was the fear of judgment because of like your Indian ethnicity, or was it more than that?
I think I was also just ignorant to it. Like, I genuinely think I have fallen in love with women. I know, like, the reason I started smoking cigarettes is because one of my friends was so pretty and I had such a fat crush on her, and she would smoke. Yeah, and I would just want to go hang out with her. Like, I know.
That is such a childhood sweetheart thing to do.
Yeah. But I didn't know. Like, I couldn't identify that you have a crush on her. Like, it was like just, I don't know.
Natural.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Wow. I think we've really gotten to know you in this episode, Meesha.
Thanks so much for spilling all your secrets on us.
I know.
But yeah, I think that brings us to the end. I hope you guys enjoyed that and found some interesting points, and even maybe related to some of the things that we talked about, learned some things that we talked about. If you have, do some introspection, look into yourself, see if you are a perpetrator for cultural appropriation, look into that, accept it. So we're going to put in our bio all of Meesha's business details. Make sure to check her out, Alchemistic Studio. And that's it, really.
Thank you so much for joining us, Meesha.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Y'all are awesome.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.